Guys, welcome back to Clockwork Dandy Noodles for another breakdown of Sugar Apple Fairy Tale episode 11. This is the penultimate episode. Next week is the last. That means the next week's video is going to be a little bit longer than normal, as I will do my normal breakdown and then I'm going to give it a score out of 10 and give you my overall thoughts. That's how we roll on the channel, so I can't wait to go through that with you guys. I've got a lot to say about this show in general. We're going to be breaking down episode 11 today, which for me in true fashion was equally as irritating as the last two, which is really annoying because I want to like the show. You started really good. There were some really good highlights in the beginning. The line and the motto for this show for me is just why. Before we get into that, make sure you guys are subscribed. In half a week's time you're getting my overall review for spring 2023, where I'm going through all the shows coming your way, all the new things we've got to look forward to. What shows am I breaking down on the channel? There is something I'm going to be breaking down that I think you guys are going to like. In about a week's time we're going to have the end of season review where I crown top 3 anime, give out some fun awards. I'm really looking forward to the awards this time, and I'm going to be brave. I have decided I'm going to be brave. I'm going to give you an honest top 3. I know it's not going to be everyone's favourites, and if you're not too into unpopular top 3s, don't watch it. Just go and have a look at my review because that's the next season. If you are open and you want to see an honest review from Becca, and I'll try and be as descriptive as I can and why, check that video out. So that goes out in a week. We have got another episode of Sugar Apple Fairy Tale that I need to break down first. I've got my notes. There were some good ones, so I promise that it's not just going to be all ranting. I did think we were maybe recovering. The end happened and I knew we had not recovered. Jonah sensing that Anne's heart really wasn't in it. As much as I don't like him, and he can definitely go away because I also hate you, and he has no right to hate her. You bullied her, you victimized her, and you were going to use the guise of marriage. I also sensed it with Anne. Her heart wasn't in it. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to be any rival for Keith at all. There's going to be no rival. So it's good that this week we do get a piece from her, but now it seems pointless because she's not allowed to even enter anyway. Shao definitely seemed very distanced this week, and his response was just do what you want instead of saying yes or no to go into town, because his response and then him really not acting like he wanted to really be there. I would also be worried that I just forced this person along with me, even though technically he could have said yes or no. His answer was just a whatever. That's not an answer, Shao. Would also lead me to be, actually, I'm really sorry, I didn't really mean to drag you along if you're not that interested. Awkward up until the end where they are driven to finally have the hug because bad things happen. Shal is really awkward. He's a very mature character. He's been alive a long time. He's always pretty reasonable as well, and it's just weird seeing him very awkward. Shal is Shal. The bit I also really enjoyed was the Fairy King bit. All fairies know who the Fairy King is regardless. It doesn't matter whenever they are born. I like that because it feels like an inherent fondness to knowing somebody important. Shal also does technically state that the reason why he's in a bit of a meh mood is because of Anne. However, unlike Anne, who is very brave and just comes out with a very awkward conversation about Bridget, he doesn't. He just keeps it to himself. It's really bothering you. You should just say something. And I know that's not his style. He is sometimes blunt. I feel like he could have probably got away with putting it into that conversation because it kind of flowed together. I guess we're having to build a bit of tension here. At this point, I'm still not seeing it because there's worse coming anyway. What I did also really like, more good positive points. Once upon a time, humans were actually slaves to the fairies. So it actually started backwards. The Fairy King liked Cedric so much that they wanted to be friends. And it's this then misunderstanding that royalty likes fairies, but we're also yet to see fairy slavery abolished. So as much as they like fairies, they're clearly not liking them enough to see them as equals. But there is this history going on where people are angry at the fairies and the fairies are angry at the humans, and it goes round in a circle. But weirdly enough, the people at the top are okay, but they are unable to create this society where everybody is equals. I did like that because it makes sense. It's not an info dump. We've seen info dumps in this show done before. Shal would talk and explain the history that he's reading because it's on the wall. She can't read that language. He can. This makes sense. I like it, and it also gives a nice bit of backstory to why the fairy motif is absolutely everywhere when it comes to the sugar sculptures. Sad to see that history has been written by the victors. It's been changed to shame women and fairies. It does give a little bit of information to why we've got people being persecuted. It felt like this story was needed earlier to justify the behaviour towards Anne a bit later on because the sexism came out of nowhere. This was needed to explain that. Picking and choosing and putting it into perhaps not the correct order. Sugar sculptures now mainly having these fairy motifs is there's this guilt, there's this regret going on. What really irritates me is that the lighting at this point when Anne looks like she's gonna cry, absolutely beautiful. This show knows how to light. This show knows how to do eyes. The moment when Charlotte's angry, absolutely beautiful. But it's not backed up by a strong plot, which is really, really sad. For me, the story of this show is the weakest element. Lighting in animes can be hit and miss. There's shows that just don't know how to do lighting. There's shows that do. Sometimes you'll find that it's the shows that are under the radar that are lit the best. One of my top 3 is gonna suffer with the fact that nobody's watching it. It is one of the best lit shows of the season. If you are interested to find out what that one is, I'm gonna explain it. You guys will have to look at some pictures because I'll try and explain exactly why with that top 3. Lighting is rare, basically what I'm trying to say is, and this show knows how to light. It's really, really sad because I think it is JC Staff. If you are not new to the channel, you know that when it comes to JC Staff, I broke down Moriarty the Patriot. That was one of the biggest shows on this channel has ever seen because it was so popular. I always credit JC Staff with knowing how to make people look good. They know how to light their scenes. But Moriarty the Patriot, go and check out those breakdowns because they were fun. We're going to continue with the blondes in this show. I don't know who hurt the author. Must have been a blonde because we have yet another villain who is blonde in the show. We also get this awkward distance between Anne and Shal this week. Really sad. I did also think that she would make something Fairy King related. Goes for a bit of everything that's encompassed in this gorgeous fairy wing, which I really, really like. It's amazing. It's a really nice piece. So sad that she's not allowed to enter now. Let's talk about Bridget first before we talk about Sammy the douche. Bridget is the Queen of Terrible. She is basically going to force Shal into slavery again. Steal his wing. Doesn't even care about how he feels. So she's just out. Anybody who is advocating the slavery to another person is just out in my books. There's no redemption for her whatsoever. Ignored everything that he said. She hasn't respected his wishes. She's looked down upon him. I would also blame the next sequence, which I really hate, on her actions because when you hear her yelling, she's yelling at Sammy. She's telling Sammy to go steal the wing. She's telling Sammy that she doesn't like Anne or anything. And obviously he's trying to please her, or she wears the trousers in all the relationship. He's gonna do it. Merely a speculation because the show's not giving me enough information. I'm speculating. At this point, I did think that the show was going too well. We had a gorgeous piece that had been created by Anne. Everything was on a high, but yet we have one episode left, so we need to have some more trauma and awfulness in true sugar fashion. So we're going to have another blonde villain, and we're going to meet Sammy. And Sammy is a complete idiot who has come out of nowhere. We have basically no information. We only know him as being a person who's always got his arms crossed behind Jonas. Irritating. I think one of the things about the show that really irritates me is villains come out of nowhere. The show goes from 0 to horrible and absolutely no warning. This sequence is absolutely horrible. Now, can you imagine if he'd gone through with it and actually burnt her hands off? Could you imagine him trying to wiggle out of it? Master Radcliffe finding out. If you had gone through with it, you wouldn't be able to pin that on Jonas. I do wonder what the actual plan was. There was no plan there apart from just hurt her. But at that point, she's already made a sugar piece. It's just an outright abusive sequence that is just horrible for the sake of just being horrible. There's nothing behind it. We've not had any information or backstory to this character. This character has come pretty much left field one episode before the end. I'm not invested in your villain. There's a lot of really decently written villains this season. This guy isn't one of them, and I still hate Jonas because Jonas got the build up. I don't like Jonas. He's a horrible character. He got the build up. You built him up. You've actually had him appear as a character every single episode basically and not got rid of him. Angry Shal, absolutely gorgeous. So going back to just lavering on the praise for how this anime looks gorgeous. How angry he is, I feel it, and just the rage. There's no issues with this bit here. But once again, we've just got bad people running away. A lot of bad people just seeming to get away with everything. And I think that's why the show is frustrating to me because nobody gets punished and Jonas never got punished. And now because we're pinning it on Jonas and now we feel bad that Jonas is being framed, suddenly we're okay and we're on Team Jonas about him really doing anything. Go Kathy for biting the dude and trying to save your master, but at the same time, you've not given Kathy any character development, so she's just kind of there. I've got nothing. You're not giving me information. I feel like the show is really rushed. It just feels like we're just going to go, here's a really bad thing, here's a really bad thing, here's a really bad thing, and we have to feel sorry for Anne. The show kind of comes together. So now it's even worse because Anne is being cast out for standing up for herself and the guy won't even listen to her. Again, probably blonde on the inside, guys. He's a Malteser. He's blonde on the inside. But nobody gets punished and he refuses to believe that Sammy's the one who did it because, oh no, Sammy came to me and told me that Jonas had did this. This is where I'm at. We now apparently have an even bigger villain who is literally okay to burn women's hands off. awkward episode for me, guys. I'm still going. I have one episode to go now, and I've listened to you guys. You guys want me to continue breaking it down. I am. I've got one episode to go. The show has so many high points. The plot is either not being treated right. I don't want to say that the material it's based on is wrong, because it's most likely that they've just picked and chosen the best bits and just slammed it all together and it doesn't quite work, or it's rushed. It does feel really rushed. A shame, because this show could have been a lot better. At the start, I was praising it. I really thought that Sugar Apple Fairy Tale would be on my list. It wasn't on the midways. It was absent from the midways because it started to do the wobbling around midway. It's not gonna be on the list. So there's a spoiler for the end of season review. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale isn't on it. It might get a award somewhere. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys aren't too mad with me slamming the anime. I'm trying to give my reasons to why I didn't enjoy the anime. There's a lot going on that is praiseworthy, but there's so much that's just ruining it for me that the praise is just kind of non-void. Thank you guys so much. Tune in for one last time next week on Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. Do make sure if you hit any video, you're going to hit the review for Spring. That should go up this week, where I'm going to go through what I'm breaking down. There is that one show that I think you guys are going to tune in for, but that will depend if you've seen the first season. I can't wait to see who's coming back for next season. Most of my regular viewers are on one video. I like it when you're all together, so hopefully there's a show that gets you guys all back together again. I will see you guys again soon. Bye bye, guys.